Hello there everyone and welcome to another edition. This is episode 36 of The Moaning Show. I'm HCD Rules 0001, your host as always. Now first off, I have to apologise because there's been a slight change of plan in the topic for this particular episode. I honestly thought that the Olympics were going to start this week. They're not, they're going to start next week, so that will be next week's show. Fingers crossed, hopefully with some assistance from a higher power. And, you know, so that's the plan for next week's show, definitely. Be it with the higher power or be it without the higher power. So this week, as a change in topic, I would like to talk to you about times when things go wrong or when things stop working as they should. Now, when things stop working, we start to panic, and then we stop working. It's not only electrical items, it can be, you know, it could be cars, it can be bikes, it can be anything. It could be the human body. When it stops working, we need help to get it working again. And if we know how to fix a problem, then it gets fixed. The time we panic is when we don't know how to fix these problems. When we don't know the cause of the problem or whatever. I'll give you some examples of things that have not been going wrong necessarily, but definitely not working as they should. And the first example of this is the thing I'm actually talking to you through now, my PlayStation 3. Was working pretty much 100% fine till around about October of last year. I had recently purchased the F1 2011 video game. I was quite happily playing it, and all of a sudden it started to, slow up. The process started to slow up. And, there was a Grand Prix on that weekend, or there was a practice session that I wanted to watch because I'm a huge Formula 1 fan. I have a F1 channel I have a channel that's dedicated to Formula 1, as well as this one. But the thing is, the game sort of stopped, playing as it should do, and it started the discs inside the PS3, because you obviously need the disc, the Blu-ray disc, to keep it going. But the thing that amazed me was the fact that when I took the disc out, to obviously reset it and try it again, was the fact that the bloody thing was ridiculously warm. You could put it up to your face and then it would be, obviously label side, you're not going to put the disc side to your face, but it was stupidly warm, and I didn't know why. So then, because I have this Play TV, which means you can watch television through your PlayStation, and it is my main way of watching TV or recording TV programs that I like to see, things like that. I rely on my PS3 as it is the centre of my entertainment world. Like I say, I'm talking to you through it as I speak. I watch DVDs through it, I play games through it, I play music on it, So when it stops working, I can't do as much. With obvious reasons. When something stops working, you can't do the things you normally do or the things you want to do. But the weird thing is, I bought Gran Turismo 5 for the PS3 around about, say, 6 weeks after I got the F1 game. And, these problems came back. It wouldn't turn on properly, or I couldn't turn it off, or I find that specifically with the PS3's internet browser as well. So like if my computer's off and I need to look up something, the PS3's internet browser is not very reliable, and it crashes sometimes, and like all the internet, like all computers do, they crash sometimes, and it's all to do with resetting it. At times I've had to literally turn my PS3 off at the mains and turn it back on again. And sometimes when they don't start properly, I had to do a reboot of the memory system. Luckily most of my game saves are on there, but not all of my music. Some of my music disappeared. And the weird thing there was the fact that, the music that I'd been listening to, before I go to bed or whatever, most people listen to an MP3 player or an iPod. I listen to my PS3. I mean, PS3's got a wireless control, as you see there, and got remote controls for the TV, so you can turn it off, boom, and I listen to music, watch DVDs with a pair of headphones, so I don't interrupt anybody else for what they're doing in the house or whatever. And one drawback is I might not be able to hear requests, or hear requests for me to be in the room or to help out mum or dad or whatever, but the majority of the time, 90% of the time, it's all good. I can't hear anybody, nobody can hear me, what I'm doing. Alright, you might hear the occasional click on the controls, or me laughing at something, because it's all to do with that. But what I'm trying to get at is I had to reset the PS3's memory system. It took 45 minutes to an hour the first time it happened. I had to do it again, but just recently, when I was playing Gran Turismo about a month ago or something like that, I found that when I finished playing the game, it stopped the PS3 from working properly. It would go back to the home menu, which is what you get in current generation consoles. It stopped loading up the screens that you get, because you get options to go to pictures, movies, music, game, memory and things like that, and settings and bits and bobs, and even those options will come up. And I've come to the conclusion that if the game can't load for a specific length of time, if the PlayStation 3 can't load for for say 15-20 minutes or so, it starts to cook the disc. Now, not in a physical sense, but I think it's something to do. My PS3 is second hand. I bought it from where I worked a couple of years ago, and I'm very happy with it. And the weird thing is, it doesn't have this problem with movies, but I guess that it would be sort of similar to, because the thing's actually got to find the scene. I don't know the specifics of a DVD disc or a Blu-ray disc, but I assume that it's just for games, and games where there is a lot of time without the thing loading. For instance, a football game, you don't need loading times with that. A racing game where you don't have a lot of loading times, so like if you're playing a long distance race or something, and it could be problematic like that. But I have games that take over 3 to 4 hours to complete each, and nothing goes wrong then. It's very strange. I don't know what causes it, and hindsight, you wouldn't do these things. If you know what breaks something, you don't do it. Another example is I've been recently playing a massively multiplayer game with the internet on my PC, and I have been using, up until yesterday or the day before, a wired Xbox 360 controller, because I have one of those as well. God, I'm popular. But I have been using one of those wired 360 controllers, and when you connect a USB device into your computer, you hear the obligatory ba-ding, ba-dong, ba-ding, ba-dong, in terms of, connecting it and disconnecting it. You get that all over the place with every computer. It might be different depending on how you've set your computer up. For instance, it might be a happy sound like yay when you put it in and boo when you take it out. It's all how you set up your computer. But I'd be playing this game and I'd stop for a drink of water or stop for a scratch of the face or whatever, and I'd put the control down, and all of a sudden this thing, you'd hear the disconnect thing, like that, and you think, oh, a bit strange. And I reckon it was all to do with the wires actually going into the controller, because there was nothing wrong with the connection. 2 times in 2 days this happened. I'd be playing the game, I'd put the controller down, and maybe the wire was stretched over here. I'll use this as an example. The wire would be coming over like that, and the bit that goes in, and then the detection thing would go crazy. It'd be like ba-ding, 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 and all of a sudden this blue screen would appear on my computer. Now, what a blue screen is on the computer is, I do believe, the computer's way of saving itself before a major, and I mean major, bit of trouble happens. So it shuts itself down, resets it. So that happened 2 nights in a row. 2 nights ago and the night before that. And I thought to myself, well, it must be the controller doing it. So hence I'm now using a wired PS3 control, and apart from one control configuration on the game, everything's fine, everything's working, there's no ba-ding, 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 ba-ding again. And it's just weird like that. A couple of days before that, my internet stopped working. And when your internet... See, up until, say, 2008, or say 2006, or whatever year it was, we didn't have proper broadband internet access. Signed up, we've got a very good deal at the moment, and we're happy with what we've got. Now, before then, I went to the local library to get my internet access, and so I couldn't do big downloads, like download a movie or download an album or whatever, and I couldn't do the certain things, like this game I'm playing at the moment. Wouldn't have been able to download that, wouldn't have been able to play that, because it uses internet when you're playing it. So I'm actually playing the game again. I'm obsessed by it at the moment, sadly. And this thing would stop working. I think, oh. So it signed me out, as it always does in that sort of situation. And so I figured, well, I'll try signing in again. It wouldn't sign me in. And on your broadband router, there's something that flashes or goes through to explain that it's working perfectly, the internet's fine, no problem. And in the bottom right hand corner, I've got Windows 7 at the moment. In the bottom right hand corner, there's an indicator to say whether the internet's okay or not. And the yellow triangle came up to say you have no internet access. And it's at times like that where you realise how much you rely on the internet. Before we got the broadband, we weren't too reliant on the internet. But I get, calls from in the other room and things like that from my parents or wherever, and they say, "Oh, who's this in this?" I recognise that face because they watch programs like Foyle's War and all sorts of shit like that I think is shit. And they see someone they've seen in something else and they can't quite put it up here. So they ask me, and I go on this Internet Movie Database, IMDb, and you type the person's name in and they find out. It's all for stuff like that, keeping in touch. Facebook and Twitter. Not so much Twitter. I have 6 followers on both of my profiles. The one for this show and my other one for Formula One. I don't particularly use Twitter that often. You know, once when I say I've done a show like this or my F1 show. I use Facebook mainly to keep in touch with the family. And it's things like that. You see people on Facebook with over like 300 friends. I don't know 300 people, much less 300 people that would want to be my friend, so to speak. But like I say, the internet stopped working, and I was not necessarily starting to panic, because a few weeks back it stopped working for whatever reason, and it wouldn't start again. Later that day, when I saw what was going on, and I wondered what was going on. So then I fiddled about with the router slightly and reset it, and everything was fine after that. Yet my neighbour 2 doors up had internet access as well, because there was a period last year, I think it was November time, where the internet went down and was down for a good 8 hours or so, and it wasn't just mine, it was my neighbour and the next door neighbour to that as well. So it wasn't my internet access, so the internet as a whole must have stopped working. But that's exactly what I'm trying to get at. It's the pain in the arse situation where you're either doing something or whatever and things stop working. The worst time was about 2 months ago now. I was in the kitchen with my mother doing some baking. Occasionally she likes to get some baking done, and we now use a decent food processor, a Kenwood. And we're baking some bread, if memory serves me correctly. So we use the correct bread attachment. I say bread attachment, it's a hook. This thing, and all of a sudden the bloody thing stopped working. And it was a power cut. Now we knew it was a power cut because we had the light on at the time, like I have at the moment. The big indicator of the power cut is there's a clock, something like a red LCD display. You know the type of one like you see in action movies where a bomb counts down. The red numbers, red electronic numbers. And this clock, the cooker, or the oven, should I say, cooker, God, I sound old. But this clock had gone off. In other words, it's blank, and I wondered why that was happening. So we had a power cut, so we couldn't do that. Luckily the bread was more or less mixed and finished, so I was able to knead it and roll it and put it in a bread tin, put it in the thingy. But my mother is reliant on electricity for oxygen. She has a wire going into her nose and that, for medical reasons. But the scary thing is, when you get a power cut, 99 people out of 100 have a freezer and fridge full of food and drink and ice and whatever. What if your power doesn't get reactivated for over 10 hours? Yes, your freezer should be able to cope with it, but your fridge, luckily, because of Mother's requirement for the oxygen, we are now on a high priority reconnection service. So if we're not connected within 3 hours or something, we should be connected within 3 hours or within 2 hours of disconnection for whatever reason. The weird thing was, this wasn't meant to happen for 2 weeks, this power cut. This power cut wasn't through failure. Someone switched it off. And we weren't meant to get switched off for another 2 weeks. So we got a £25 cheque post for compensation. But 2 weeks later, we got about 4 or 5 days later, we got a letter in the post saying your power needs to be disconnected for 6 to 8 hours on a blah 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 blah. And so we had a forward advance warning. So we went out that day because we have a portable device that Mum can wear on the back of a wheelchair or in a buggy, whatever. And this thing can be used, and it also can be used, for instance, it's like a power cut, which is very handy indeed. And we were told it would be back on by, say, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. And it didn't come back on until about 4:15. Now, it's all very well having these estimated times, but when you have someone that's completely reliant on electricity in terms of health, like my mother, you then start to worry about the fact, is she going to be alright, or is said person going to be okay, because of the fact that something isn't working and needs to for her to be as healthy as she can possibly be. Those people amongst you who know my family or who are part of my family know that she is reliant on this oxygen. So it's a scary thing a scary time when things stop working. And when things stop working, we start to panic. If we can control the times when things stop working, in other words, if we know what to do to get things working again, we are fine. When things stop working and we don't know how to fix it or how to get things working again in other words, if something's beyond our capability, if something's beyond our power, we lose it. And when things go beyond our control, we need help. 99 times out of 100, the help is there. It's when those times aren't there that we start to, lose control mentally. We start to go real mad. It's like, shit, what do I do? Fuck, there's no, oh crap, there's nothing like that. So basically, when things stop working, they are beyond our control, or we've done something wrong and we must rectify it. When it's beyond our control, as I say, when things stop working, what do we do, But it's one of those things that always gets on my nerves, because if something does go wrong or something does stop working and I don't know, or if I do know, then there's not a lot that can be done about it. But that's what the Moaning Show's for. It's to bring my views across about things that really piss me off, really get on my nerves. And so that's about it for this edition. Like I say, it's a bit of a substituted edition as far as my original plans go. It is actually very difficult to get my dad to join me, to get the higher power to join me as far as recording a video goes. I mean, I'm just looked at the clock for this video, it's nearly 25 minutes long. But like I say, next week the edition will be about the Olympics, the London 2012 Games. Come hell or high water, I will be definitely here for that edition. I will try my damnedest to recruit my father for that one as well. But that's about it for this one. When things stop working, as I say, any requests or suggestions for future episodes. I've got plenty of topics I want to talk about, but which means that the show can continue. But let's have some suggestions. Let's hear what gets on your nerves. So I thank you for watching as you do each and every time. Didn't get many views last time, but they'll return after a 2-week hiatus. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time for more moaning.